Hello, everyone. If you like horror movies, you've probably heard of Hereditary, and we all know what kind of mysterious and perplexing end it serves. So don't worry, we'll explain the riddles from Hereditary in this video. But first, a word of caution, major spoilers ahead. The film begins with Annie dealing with the loss of her mother, Ellen, a tragedy she appears to be ambivalent about due to their strained relationship. She mentions at the funeral that she doesn't recognize many of the attendees. The grave is quickly desecrated, which Annie's husband, Steve, keeps hidden from her. We learn that her mother became quite close to Annie's daughter, Charlie, after keeping her mother away from her eldest kid, Peter. The small girl is the most distressed by the loss, asking her mother who would look after her now and claiming, for no reason, that her grandmother wanted her to be a boy. Charlie is an odd little girl who creates headless characters and removes a pigeon's head, which he then sketches wearing a crown. A strange light follows her across the room in waves, haunting her. Annie comes from a family of people who have struggled with mental illness. Her father stopped eating and died of malnutrition. Her brother killed himself after accusing his mother of attempting to put people in him, and her mother developed dementia near the end of her life. Annie discovers a letter in her mother's mystical book that reads, "Our sacrifices will pale in comparison to the rewards." Peter is studying Greek tragedies at school, including the story of Iphigenia, a princess whose father sacrificed her to the gods in exchange for a strong wind on the way to Troy. In class, students debate whether it is more tragic if a character causes their own demise due to a fatal weakness, or if it is worse if the character's demise was predetermined from the start and they had no control over their own fate. When Charlie is forced to attend a party against her and her brother's will, things go horribly wrong when she has an allergic reaction to nuts in a chocolate cake. Charlie, rushing to the hospital in the car, tries to help her breathing by sticking her head out the window, but it is decapitated by a wooden post. The identical symbol from Annie's mother's necklace appears on the post. Annie considers returning to the bereavement group she attended following her mother's death to cope with her grief. She meets a kind woman named Joan while sitting in the car parked outside, hesitating on whether or not to enter. Joan takes Annie home after another chance encounter and holds a séance in which she appears to contact her dead grandchild. Annie persuades her family to perform another séance with her in order to reach Charlie after being convinced by the eerie experience. That was a colossal blunder. They become the center of a haunting that appears to be directed at Peter. Charlie's notepad is overflowing with scratched-out drawings of her brother. The light that Charlie saw follows Peter. He notices his own reflection smirking at him and then begins mimicking the popping noises that his sister was famous for, as well as pounding his face against his desk. Annie tries to stop the haunting, but her efforts are unsuccessful, and Joan has vanished. The camera reveals occult artifacts and images of Annie's relatives in Annie's living room. She discovers allusions to a demon named Pigeon, who prefers to inhabit susceptible male bodies in her mother's ancient manuscripts, as well as the enormous rewards that the demon's conjurer will earn. She also comes upon photos of Joan and her mother. She discovers a headless body and the now familiar symbol painted on the wall after following flies out of the attic. When her husband Steve is immolated by the curse, Annie overtakes a bizarre transformation. After his head-banging accident, Peter wakes up in his bed at night. As he travels through the house, a possessed Annie climbs around the ceiling and enters his father's burnt remains. He flees from his mother into the attic because the house is full of naked strangers, but finds her there. When Peter jumps out of the window, the odd light follows him to his back and vanishes. He wakes up and moves up into the neighboring treehouse, as if in a dream, where nude people dance around his mother and grandmother's beheaded, kneeling bodies. They crown him, and Joan proclaims him Paimon, one of Hell's 8 rulers. They've fixed his female body, and he's now in charge. As the film comes to a close, Peter stares, stunned. So, what went wrong? Annie's mother was clearly a member of a cult aiming to provide Paimon with a body in exchange for wealth and/or power. While the cult worked on preparing Peter's body, the male body that he prefers to inhabit, he possessed Charlie. Charlie was, without a doubt, Paimon from the start. From the moment she's born. Astor told Variety, "I mean, there's a child who's been displaced, but she's been displaced from the start." Joan's accidental contact and befriending of Annie to fool her into commencing the last spell, as well as the presence of the symbol on the post that killed Charlie, suggests that her death was painstakingly planned. So this was unraveling Hereditary's mysteries. While there's so much more to say, I hope this quick review helps you grasp Astor's strange, dark, and terrifying world.